Hello Percussion. Today we're talking about the dotted quarter note, 1 and 2 bar repeat signs, the key signature, and step 5 and 5A in week 10 of beginner percussion class. Here we go. So just as a quick review, remember that the dot adds half of the value to whatever it is dotting. And so if we were to dot a quarter note, we need to remember how much a quarter note is valued. In 4/4 time, a quarter note is worth 1 beat. And so if we were to dot a 1, we would add half to that. And so when we dot a quarter note, we're adding half a beat to it, which is also an eighth note. So you can think of it as adding an eighth note to it, thus making a dotted 1 or a dotted quarter note worth 1.5 beats in quarter time. You can also think that a dotted quarter note is worth 3 eighth notes. And now that we know that a dotted quarter note is worth 1.5 beats or 3 eighth notes, let's go ahead and look at step 5 and look at the top of the page at number 1. Notice how measures 1 and 2 sound the exact same played on a snare drum, but are written differently. They're also counted the same. 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, and. So those are the same exact sounding measures, but Mr. Kenan Wiley writes them differently here. That way we can see how they can be written two different ways. One with a quarter note followed by an eighth note rest, and the other with a dotted quarter note instead. If we were playing a wind instrument and we were using the sustain of our breath or our air, then we might hear the difference there. In measure 1, it would sound like 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, and so we would sustain in measure 2 as opposed to resting on beat 4 in measure 1. But for us, like we said, since we're playing on a single surface, in this case our snare drum or our drum pad, it's going to sound the exact same. That being said, let's go ahead and play number 1 together. 1, 2, ready, go. Let's go ahead and look at number 4 now. So number 4 is in 3/4 time, meaning that there are 3 beats per measure and the quarter note receives 1 beat. If we play number 4 at around 120 beats per minute or faster, we can start to incorporate full strokes for quarter notes or less on the same hand. Remember that little equation that we had last time. For example, in measure 1 of number 4, the left hand on beats 2 and 3 could be a full and a downstroke respectively. In measure 3, the and or the te of 1, 2, and 3 could be a full stroke, and a downstroke respectively, since the and of 3 is the last left hand, at least for a little while. It's worth saying that at a slower tempo, maybe 110 beats per minute or slower on number 4, would warrant the use of downstrokes for everything. But like we said before, if we're playing at 120 or so or faster, we can start implementing those full and downstrokes together. So let's go ahead and play number 4. 1, 2, ready, go. Number 7 is also in 3/4 time and has paradiddle rudiments in it. Make sure to pay special attention to those. And also look at the X note heads that we see there in measure 2 and measure 4. Those X note heads just mean that we're going to play on the rim of our drum pad or on our snare drum. To play on the rim, we're going to move our arms forward so that we play on the far side of the rim on the shank or the shoulder of the drumstick, which is about 4 inches in from the tip. Let's go ahead and play number 7 together. 1, 2, ready, go. Now, as we dive into the second page on step 5, this page 15, we are going to have to talk about the 1 and the 2 bar repeat sign. The 1 bar repeat sign is a slash and 2 dots on either side. It just means that we're going to repeat the preceding measure. But when we see a 2 bar repeat sign, that's going to look kind of the same, except we'll have 2 slashes with those dots on either side, and it means that we're just going to repeat the preceding 2 measures. And so as we explore down the page here on this little unnamed duet that we see, it should be mentioned that player 1 and player 2 have very similar parts but sort of interplay with each other. And if you've got students that are a little bit stronger, I would put them on player 1. And if we've got some students that are a little bit weaker or just need some extra help, player 2's part would be worth giving it a shot. So let's go ahead and play this little unnamed duet. 1, 2, ready, go. Now let's go ahead and explore step 5A, where we put our dotted quarter rhythms on a keyboard. Now let's go ahead and look at number 1 at the top of the page. I want you to make note of the rhythms in measures 1 and 2. Again, they sound the same when played on a keyboard, but they are written differently. Let's go through the process of counting, saying the note, air sticking, and then playing, and let's play this together. 1, 2, ready, go. On your own time, go ahead and look through numbers 2, 3, and 4. But before we get to number 5, I wanted to introduce a new concept called the key signature. The key signature is located on the right side of the clef sign, and it indicates which notes will be played flat or sharp throughout the musical selection. Number 5 makes use of our first key signature that we've ever seen. Anytime we see a key signature made up of flats, they will always be listed in the same order: B, E, A, D, G, C, F. I like to think bead, greatest common factor. Number 5 only has 2 flats in it. Sure enough, the flats are B flat and E flat from left to right. Remember, that means that anytime we see a B or an E in this music, it actually just means B flat and E flat. Also, before we play, take note of the shape that your 2 mallets make while playing these double stops in number 5. Our first B flat and D double stops on beats 1 and 2 make a diagonal line from the top left to the bottom right. And our second D and F double stops on beats 3 and 4 make a parallel line from the bottom left to the bottom right. We can also notice that in measure 3, same type of thing there. And then finally, as always, use sticking that makes sense with what you are playing. We want to avoid crossovers and awkward movements whenever necessary. Let's go through the process and then play number 5 together. 1, 2, ready, go. And then finally, let's take a look at the top of page 15A at My Country 'Tis of Thee. This is an awesome duet between 2 mallet players. Once again, you can assign half your class to player number 1, the other half to player number 2. The parts are pretty similar. One other thing to note here in measure 4, we have our first natural sign. Those weren't necessary because we didn't ever have a key signature before, but a natural sign simply just means that instead of a flat or a sharp, you're going to play that note natural. So it's going to be on that bottom row on the naturals row on your keyboard. So go through the process one measure at a time, take it slow, and then knock it out. Let's play My Country 'Tis of Thee. 1, 2, 3, 1, ready, go. And that is it for this week, guys. As always, I hope you guys have a great week and happy drumming. I will see you next time. Bye-bye.